Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to The Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, my lovely listeners, and welcome to another episode of The Social Circus. I am your host each and every week, Sarah Thompson, and today I have a special guest, and we're going to be having, I hope, a really juicy conversation about work and career and life and business. So welcome, Nikki from Accomplished Education.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Oh, good. It's lovely to have you here. Now, for all of my listeners, I've been working with Nikki for a couple of years now, and she's actually a member of my mastermind. So, Nikki, tell us a little bit about, first of all, tell us a little bit about Accomplished Education, which is your baby business.
Yeah, sure. So that's my passion project on the side.
Yeah.
So Accomplished Education is around helping people get that job. So providing education and training around writing winning job application documents, and then also a done-for-you job application writing service, and then also interview coaching. So teaching people how to really align themselves with the role and sell their value to land the job.
Awesome. Amazing. Now, I love asking this question, and this question is particularly pertinent to you because you, as you said, this is your passion project, and it started out of your, I don't want to call it 9 to 5 because I know you definitely don't work 9 to 5, but out of your, let's call it your day job and what you were experiencing there. So can we talk a little bit about that and how you then created this wonderful business?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in law enforcement, which probably sounds a little bit like there's no link between that and career coaching and helping people land that job. But so I have about just over 22 years experience in state and federal law enforcement within Australia. And part of my role in that has been sitting on recruitment interviews and promotion panels as well. And through that, I got really frustrated with seeing people that would have been great for the role because of their experience and their skills and their value miss out on the role because they couldn't articulate their value and their alignment to the role properly, either in their written application or during interview. And I felt it made me really sad and frustrated because it was a lose-lose. The organisation was losing out on potentially the best candidate for the role, and then also the individual who a lot of the times it was like their dream role were missing out on that as well. And I was walking away from these panels just completely frustrated, and I was obviously whinging about that a bit because one of my friends said, "Nikki, you've got all this experience in education and training. You've got all this experience on panels. Why don't you put together some training around this?" And so that's how it all started. I ended up developing an online course thinking that would be it. One and done. I'll just create this training. People will find it. I will build it. They will come. And that turned into also then doing some interview coaching and then also doing the done for you writing service. So it sort of blossomed into this passion business on the side.
Well, I love that it has evolved from something where you just saw a real gap in what was going on and what you were seeing and experiencing in your role. So last year you took some long service leave and stepped away from your day job and really dived into Accomplished Education. So what did that look and feel like? Because I knew you were in the mastermind then, and it was really exciting to watch you work with such determination.
So I had the opportunity to take an unpaid career break, and I thought, I'm going to take this and just see what I can do with the business. Instead of trying to, do a little bit in the pockets of time that I had, I'm just going to give it my uninterrupted attention. So I worked really hard on setting up the foundations of the business, setting up systems and processes that would allow me when I return to work for the business to not so much run on autopilot, because obviously I'm in there doing the work, but to set up the systems and the processes to support me and to streamline it as best that I could. So it was really great to spend just that dedicated time on setting that up and just really being with the business.
And I have to say, having watched you in that journey while you had your eye on the prize, because your determination was always to create a business that was going to allow you to return to work, but your determination was to create a business that was really going to support you in that. And you're so committed to that. So I have to say congratulations, because your goal was never, and this is one of the reasons I really wanted on this podcast, Nikki, is because your goal was never to build a business where you didn't go back to your work. So can we talk a little bit about that? Because you obviously love what it is that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm very lucky in my current role in work. So I'm a big education and training nerd, and I'm in an education and training space. So I love my day job, but I was really fired up to do this side business. So it was never, like you said, I never intended. And people always ask, "Oh, Nikki, are you going to transition into this full time? Is it your intention to leave work?" And I'm like, "No, I want to do this on the side." So it's actually been really good to have both, because obviously the two roles are very different. You know, my day job is very structured. There's a lot of governance. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of hierarchy. And when I get frustrated with that, I can lean into my business where I can create a new service or a new product and I don't have to ask anyone and I can be creative. You know, I love playing in Canva and, so there's that. And then sometimes when I'm like a little bit overwhelmed and I'm like, oh, it's just me, I don't have a team to delegate to, then I can lean back into work where I work in a team and rely on that structure. So for me, having the two helps me be creative and to be fulfilled. So I really enjoy having the two.
Yeah, I love that. And now that you are back, because obviously your unpaid leave has finished and you are back at work, and I have to say, I don't know if you could have given it any more to create the business while you had that space. You certainly, I hope you feel proud of what you committed to and achieved in that time. But now that you're back working in your role and running your business on the side, how does that look and feel like? Because I will just add, you also have a family in the mix of all that too.
Yeah, I do. Maybe that's the bit that I neglect. No, I'm just joking. My kids are not. How it looks. So I personally, I thrive on process and structure. So I'm very structured about my time and planning. You know, within Digital Queens, one of the sessions that I love the most is monthly planning, where I actually sit down and figure out what I need to do for the month. And I schedule in all my work and then I schedule in all my business tasks and try and schedule in a little bit of grace as well, because obviously not everything goes to plan or to schedule. But I find that structure really works for my brain and my style.
Mm. And how are you feeling now? Like, are you feeling like these are both filling up your cup in different ways? Or are you leaning towards, oh, I think I just should give it all away? Or like, how's it going? Because I guess we often see people creating things and we imagine what their vision is. And like you say, for most people, it's always, I'm going to quit my day job and turn this into a world domination empire. That was never your vision. But now that you've achieved creating the business and you're back at work, does it feel like how you hoped it would, or do you have some waivers, or do share?
Uh, I laugh because I think my answer would depend on the day that you ask me. All right. So sometimes I'm super hyper motivated in the business, and then other times my motivation does wane and dip. And one of the advantages for me of still having paid employment is that I'm not reliant on my business to pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
So if I do want to take my foot off the accelerator for all that back end business stuff, like content creation and marketing and that sort of stuff, I can do that without having to worry or stress about revenue and finances and meeting targets and that sort of thing. And then I can ramp back up again when I'm super motivated as well. So I sort of, it comes and goes and it wanes. And I have just learnt, because I am quite a driven person, I have just learnt to go with the flow on that. Because
Mm.
if I try and push super hard when I'm in an unmotivated phase, it is not good. The outcome is not good. So I've just learnt to be really mindful in my business about what absolutely needs to be done. Like the analogy of the glass balls and the rubber balls, like what has to be done and what I can just let lie for
Yeah.
next month or next time.
And I love that because I do think, and the more, particularly as women, we could lean into that flow rather than push, it would all be a whole lot easier. But I have to say, from the outside looking in, I feel like you do that really, really well. Like, you do seem to have good balance and good structure. And it's nice to hear that you do allow yourself grace, because I think that we can be very critical of ourselves and kind of go, "Oh, I didn't do that." Whereas you're like, no, I've just done what needed to be done. And I think that for all of my listeners, I hope you're hearing that, because I feel like we can all punish ourselves because we just don't get everything done. And I don't even know, working full-time in business, if I'll ever get everything done. So
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? The to-do list will always be there. Like, it will never all be done. And, one of the things that I've learnt through the mastermind is to really look at what has value in my business, what moves the needle and what I should be focusing on. And, I used to give myself such a hard time. "Oh, I didn't get that blog post written. I didn't get that YouTube video written." And I've done quite a lot of analysis in my business about what actions actually move the needle. And I just focus on those in times where I am a little bit unmotivated and just let everything else, I'll get to it. It's still on the list, but it's just further down the list.
Oh, and I love that because that is it's actually really hard to do. I know for myself, really struggle to let go of things, and particularly if I feel like I'm letting myself down because I didn't get it done. I am learning grace. I'm a slow learner with that. But I feel like I'm coming to that place. But I don't believe we're ever able to do everything in our business. So the fact that you have realized that is probably what allows you to enjoy the success of a great career and a really lovely business and raising a beautiful family, which I'm certain you do not neglect.
No, I don't.
No, I think as mothers, we always carry that guilt of being present and making sure that we're there for our children. And I think all of us are simply doing our best. I don't think there's any notion that we can do everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Mm. So let's talk about what are your plans for the future? Because as you said, accomplished education has evolved, and I know you've also dipped your toe in actually doing like training and workshops in person on top of everything else. So let's talk about that because it's cool.
Yeah. So I've started doing basically running workshops, teaching people how to write resumes and interview skills. And I love it. So I mentioned earlier before that I'm an education and training nerd. And I think that's where accomplished education is heading, more in the teaching space, in the speaking space, in the educating space, because I believe in that adage about teaching a person to fish, and particularly in the career space, these are skills that you can use over and over again. It's not just about getting that job. It's then about, well, what about that relieving opportunity or that promotion or, that sideways slide or, these skills can be used over and over again. And it also teaches people about knowing their value, because when you're writing a resume, you're really putting your experience and your value on paper. So I think those are really good skills for people to have as well.
Absolutely, they are, and I love that you've leaned in that because if you can't tell from listening to Nikki, she's incredibly articulate, and I imagine you make a wonderful trainer. And I know having sat in training when I was in the corporate world, I feel like we often didn't get exposed to those things. I guess in public service, like you're in, we often stay in the public service, so they're more committed to your promotion. Whereas in corporate, if they developed you too much, you would leave. Yeah, and get headhunted. So I know, I'm sure there was the same impetus for them to give you those skills like that. But I love that you're putting it out there and doing that because that's something that you're getting quite good success with, isn't it? You're in demand. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I love doing as well. So, it's a win-win.
Mm. Awesome. Excellent. So from your perspective, accomplished education has really launched you into a space where you were incredibly passionate. It has now allowed you to kind of look at what else you can do and change and evolve. But we haven't really touched on your online course because I know that's what you were really committed to. And I think like many of us, you did think, I'll build it and people will just buy it. So what does your online, let's all have a giggle.
I love the myself now.
I know. What does your online course, what does it teach us and why would we want to be doing it?
Yeah, sure. So I've got two online courses. The first one is called Get Shortlisted, which teaches participants how to write winning job application documents. So I teach the structure, the strategy, and the skills behind writing cover letters, resumes, and job application documents, and walking through everything that needs to go in there to position you as a highly competitive candidate. And I have video tutorials in there. I have templates. So, you're not using those dodgy templates from Google. Also, examples of professionally written samples of all of those. So it's a bit of a DIY for people that like to learn at their own pace, like to take their own time, but want professional guidance in getting that. And my second course is for interview preparation. So teaching you all the processes to prepare you for your interview. So a lot of people say, I've got an interview coming up. I don't even know where to start. So this shows you all the research that you need to do to prepare, but then also the strategy involved in interview, and then also the structures to deliver really polished, engaging, and compelling responses.
Oh, amazing. Oh, I'm having moments of thinking I wish you'd been around when I had been younger and was doing those things because I don't know if they ever get any less daunting doing interviews. And I think particularly panel interviews are terrifying.
Yeah.
And to know that there's that help and support out there from someone like yourself who is so accomplished in your career, but also in helping and guide people through this space. So, I mean, I'm really grateful that you have put this all together because it allows so many people to access your brilliance rather than just those of us who get to work with you one-on-one, which we know is very limited because you're a very busy lady. But if you're listening to this interview, I sincerely hope that you feel inspired by Nikki because one of the things that makes me sad is that if you're an entrepreneur, we're a little bit snobby. We're a little bit snobby about the fact that, oh, I work in my business full time. And we kind of go, is that a business or a side hustle? And there is a fair bit of that goes on. And I don't really like that because I actually never intended to be an entrepreneur. I started my business when my children were little. And I was going to do it for a couple of years and I was going to go back to my real job. So I'm not a what's the word? I'm not a all-in entrepreneur who believes that's the way forward because I just fell into it. It was never a strategy. But it's really wonderful to hear you being successful at your career and building a really wonderful business that supports you and your life and your career that is still really helping other people. So thank you so much for sharing your journey because you're so unique and such an interesting unicorn that I had to have you on to talk about this.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. And I couldn't agree more with you. And I think if we really look at it, some people, and probably subconsciously, have a bit of shame around the idea of having a job and having a business, in that that
Okay.
implies that your business is unsuccessful if you still need to have paid employment. But I look at it through, you do what works for you. And
Mm.
if having paid employment and your business is what works for you, then that is your definition of success. And I don't think anybody else should be able to give you your definition of success. We define our own success. So I think it's really important to examine what we need, what is useful for us, and to stick with that regardless of what either other people's opinions are or what, societal thinking is. If it works for you, do it.
Oh, I love that. I feel like I just want to wrap it up now and put a little bow on it because that was gorgeous. So I think I'll say on that note, Nikki, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I have loved having conversations and I'm so excited for my listeners to really lean into your message because I feel like you are walking your path of success, like you said, exactly how you want to. So thank you so much for being a generous guest today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thanks. And to all of my lovely listeners, I hope that you feel inspired by listening to Nikki's story. And I hope that what she has said has really touched you to find your own path and to not feel any shame or any regret about whatever the choices that you are having to make that are right for you and right to create a successful life for yourself. So thank you for listening today. As always, you can catch The Social Circus. A new episode comes out every week and I'll catch you the same time next week. Thank you for listening. Thanks so much for tuning in to The Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thompson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.